Need a mic check at all?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Good morning and welcome to this morning's announcement. We're happy to partner up with the province in announcing funding for cryptocurrency investigations. We are happy to have the Justice Minister, Kevin Gertzen, here today to speak on the matter. Minister, if you'd like to come up.
Thanks so much, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning. Very pleased to announce today an investment of $100,000 from the Proceeds of Crime Fund, which will go to purchasing new technology in terms of software and also training of officers who are busy identifying cybercrime and identifying those who are on the internet who are committing offenses. I know that when it comes to crime, we sometimes visualize crime as something that the police are on the street, in cars, going around the community, trying to address, but the world has changed. And there are many, many victims who are found on the internet or in cyberspace. In darker places that we don't always see and can't always reach easily. So it is important that we provide that support for police officers in this more non-traditional way to ensure that they are getting offenders and reducing victims who are otherwise victimized on the internet. Between 2016 and 2020, the Winnipeg Police Service saw an increase of 370% of reported cyber crimes, including ransomware, other attacks, and cryptocurrency theft. So it is vitally important that we shine that bright light into the dark places that aren't all physical places, but are often cyber places where criminals lurk and are looking for victims. There is a connection when you think about some of the things that are happening on the streets of Winnipeg and in Manitoba today when it comes to drugs or when it comes to guns, in terms of that trading and happening in darker places of the internet. And so while this funding and the training and the specialized technology and software will certainly go after those who are stealing cryptocurrency, involved in other scams where people are victimized, often seniors, that's a part of this. There's also the other aspect of ensuring that those traditional sort of things that we think of crime when it comes to guns or drugs are also interrupted. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to walk with the Bear Clan and to see some of the challenges on the streets of Winnipeg. And this is part of looking at a broader approach that isn't simply one aspect of crime or one aspect of trying to deal with crime or one aspect of trying to reduce victims. Is going to be a multi-pronged effort when it comes to eyes on the streets, eyes on the internet, eyes in cyberspace, because it all works together in many ways. So I'm very, very thankful for the Winnipeg Police Service, and they'll give more details in the work that they do. But all the officers, those who are in our community, those who are on the internet, on the web, trying to disrupt crime, trying to ensure that those who might otherwise be victims are not victimized. They do very difficult work in very trying times, and we're grateful for the work of law enforcement in the city of Winnipeg and around the province. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for your attendance, and especially thank you those members of the Winnipeg Police Service who are doing this important work. Thank you again.
Thank you, Minister Gertzen. To provide more insight on the matter, we also have the Financial Crimes Unit Sergeant Trevor Thompson here today. He'll speak to you whether you have any questions on the matter. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. The Winnipeg Police Service continues to see a marked increase in the reporting of various frauds targeting our citizens. This is in line with the overall trends observed and measured throughout Canada. The COVID-19 pandemic has also created the ideal environment for the proliferation of frauds, such as romance scams and online employment scams. These frauds all too often lead to life-altering financial losses and emotional distress being inflicted on their victims. The majority of these frauds now involve a cryptocurrency component. In the past, criminal actors perpetrated these frauds have utilized traditional mechanisms to monetize their crimes and receive funds from victims. As cryptocurrencies have risen in popularity and become more mainstream and readily available, criminal actors have migrated into this space and are primarily using cryptocurrencies as a medium to obtain funds. Further, the meteoric rise in cryptocurrency values, which occurred in 2020 and 2021, coupled with an increased public awareness of digital assets, has led to crypto investment scams becoming one of the dominant frauds being perpetrated by criminal actors. The nature of this fraud, a small upfront investment to reap astronomical returns in a short period of time, can lead to crippling financial losses. The criminal actors prey on the victim's limited knowledge of cryptocurrencies and the misguided belief that crypto investments are always lucrative to maximize the return on the fraud. It's also important to note, as the minister did, that the use of cryptocurrencies is also becoming very common in other types of criminality that we're seeing on the streets, including drug trafficking, firearm trafficking, and money laundering. In order to combat the rise in the use of cryptocurrencies in criminal enterprises, the police must adapt. Specialized tools and training are required to enhance the knowledge and ability of investigators to conduct thorough investigations into crimes involving the use of these cryptocurrencies. These tools, combined with specialized training, will assist police in identifying and prosecuting offenders and in tracing and possible recovery of digital assets associated to this criminal activity, with an overall goal to minimize victimization to the city's citizens of Winnipeg and Manitoba. Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions in regards to what we just heard from the minister and Sergeant Thompson, please, this would be the time.
I think for Sergeant Thompson, that's a good technical question. And knowing you probably won't say in that much detail what the software is. I mean, broad strokes, what is the software? What is it used for?
Again, broad strokes, it's an analytical tool that provides functionality to investigators in easing and, I would say, visualizing the tracing of cryptocurrencies and locating them, identifying transactions. If people are, I don't know what the awareness in the room is here, but obviously the cryptocurrencies are detailed on a blockchain. It's publicly available, anybody can look at it. You can search the transactions, it's all there. But it can be extremely complicated and difficult to follow money. And primarily that's what the tool is gonna help us do.
And then is the training really focused on that tool or more broad?
Initially, the focus is on the tool and being able to maximize the use of the tool. If the operator doesn't know the functionality of the tool, then we're really in a bad spot, right? So that's the front end of it.
Is this, and I mean, I know obviously cryptocurrency and resultant scams have been growing. I mean, finance crimes, I mean, how much has the rise of crypto affected the work of the finance crimes unit?
It's incrementally increased. The minister gave some numbers there. In my office every day, probably 7 or 8 files or reports to the Winnipeg Police Service that involve cryptocurrency. At least half of those will be involving some sort of fraud or scam perpetrated either through an instant messaging platform or the internet.
And you touched on your earlier answer, but I mean, what makes these scams hard to investigate, hard to track compared to more traditional financial scams?
Yeah, anonymity is the thing, right? We always say that the best prevention is an educational component on the front end and to prevent people from being victimized. But once you are victimized, and the problem we run into is we're dealing with a worldwide problem. We're dealing with individuals or criminal organizations that are based overseas, maybe in Asia or in Africa or in places like that are difficult to get to, difficult to reach. So those investigations become complicated, especially when you throw in the use of cryptocurrencies and money moving all over the place to different places. It's a peer-to-peer platform, so it's very easy for the criminal actors to get money directly from victims. So we have to rely on our strategic partnerships with the RCMP, Europol, different agencies in the United States to conduct these investigations. We're just kind of a small piece of the puzzle. Overall, the law enforcement community worldwide has to be working together to solve these problems.
And would you say, I mean, obviously it's growing, say more traditional finance scams to crypto, I mean, what's the rough breakdown in terms of what you're seeing now?
I mean, primarily the big crypto only scam, if you want to call it that, is going to be related to crypto investing, where the criminal actors are typically going to use a vector of an instant messaging platform or an email hack to portray themselves as a trusted individual to the end victim, and basically teach them how to invest in cryptocurrency. And that's going to involve the use of cloned websites and different things like that. Like I mentioned, showing astronomical returns. Once the money goes in, though, it's going directly to the criminal actors and it's never coming out. So, I mean, we see a lot of that, but we're also seeing is the crypto platform is being utilized in what would previously be determined as traditional frauds, like the online employment scams or the romance scams, where to monetize those criminal activities, you would maybe previously use a wire transfer or an e-transfer or something like that, where now on the peer-to-peer level, you can use a cryptocurrency transfer and cut out essentially the middle person or the banking industry or any kind of mechanism that way.
And I'm assuming here, but I mean, traditional investigation, you know, if there's a banking component, presumably easier to investigate. That peer-to-peer makes it a lot more difficult. Would that be fair to say?
If a transfer is done via peer-to-peer in a crypto wallet, from your crypto wallet to my crypto wallet, the police cannot access that, right? Unless I know your private keys, I have no access. I can't see what's in your wallet. I don't know who's behind it, right? But there are places where cryptocurrency is bought, sold, and exchanged, where there are opportunities for law enforcement to intervene, and that's kind of what we're looking for.
All right, if there are no more questions, thank you very much for attending today.